I'm muted. Good morning. Thank you for joining us for today's live demo of Reclaim.ai, an introduction to the app, some of our most popular features, and how you can get started with smart AI scheduling. I am going to share my screen and we can dive right in. Feel free to leave any questions in the Q&A chat, and I will answer them as I walk through the product. But getting started, let's take a look at what Reclaim actually is. If you are a brand new user or you've been with Reclaim for a while, hopefully this webinar gives you an overview of what Reclaim is about, what you can do with the features, and how you can reclaim more time every week by automating your time blocking and creating a flexible, productive schedule for your week, for both your work and personal priorities. Reclaim is a web app. If you've already logged in before, this is going to look a little familiar as we walk through some of the app, but let's take a look at the planner, which is sort of the first view that you log into when you open up Reclaim. So the planner is your overview of the week ahead. Similar to Google Calendar, if you've ever used an online calendar, you have an overview of events that are coming up, meetings, and other smart events that Reclaim schedules, which we'll walk through. But this is sort of where you have your overview of what's coming up, what's on your schedule, and what your commitments and responsibilities are. As you can see, everything is color blocked or color coded according to settings that you set, which we'll walk through as well, but giving you a sort of a personalized overview of your week. A couple things to note about Reclaim. If you've ever tried manually time blocking your calendar, it's a great way to make sure that every minute of your day is scheduled towards a priority. But the problem with manually time blocking your calendar is that it doesn't allow for much flexibility, and Reclaim addresses this by automating the entire process. So instead of having to manually go in and create each individual time block and sort of shuffle around to create your perfect plan, Reclaim allows you to tell it what your priorities are, and it automatically schedules and builds out this weekly plan around the priorities that you've given it, around your preferences for when you want to do things, what your availability looks like, and it builds out your weekly plan. And the great thing about Reclaim is that when plans do change, which they often do, especially for busy professionals, where a meeting might come up or something gets canceled, Reclaim automatically adjusts your calendar when that happens to accommodate other priorities and to adjust your calendar to those changes so that you can just log in every day and have that perfect plan for the day built out for you without that manual adjustment of your time blocking. All right, let me just quickly check this to see if everything's working right. All right, so let's walk through the app. Here's sort of your planner overview. In this sidebar, you have your priorities sort of outlined for you. Again, your habits that you have built out, your lower priority habits, and your open tasks. And we're going to start by looking at habits as our most popular feature. Habits are an amazing way to make time for the recurring work and personal routines that you have going on every week. This is something that, would be on your to-do list every week, say updating a report or getting to the gym or meditating or whatever that might look like. That can often get pushed to the back burner when you know you need to do it, but if you're not defending time for it on the calendar, that can slip through the cracks on busy days. And habits allow you to create these routines that Reclaim will automatically to find the best time for in your busy week around everything else, so it doesn't slip through the cracks. So you have time defended for those priorities whenever you need to get them done. And habits are very simple to set up. You can set up a new habit from scratch with this button here. We also have over 100 professionally sort of prepped templates according to department where you can select pre-made templates and update them according to your preferences. So I'm going to set up a very popular habit, which is lunch. And that's something that I think most professionals can get behind, and having time for that is something that's very important that, again, can often slip through the cracks of those busy days where you intend to have a break for lunch, but that gets booked over by a meeting, or your day gets really busy and you forget to take that time to reset and eat something. So I'm going to click on this template here and we can walk through the habit form. And this is a similar view that you'll see throughout the app as we walk through the different features. But the idea of this flexible smart scheduling is that Reclaim allows you to set rules for how you want these events to schedule. So instead of having a lunch, every day at 12 p.m., which, might be ideal, but unrealistic in terms of adapting to a flexible schedule, Reclaim allows you to set ranges for how long you want to spend on a habit, what times you want to be available for that habit to schedule, and what days and additional rules like that you want these smart events to schedule. And that allows Reclaim to have that flexibility to adapt your calendar as plans change, as things come up. So here we already have our title auto-filled. Of course, you can update this to be whatever you want it to be. You can set your category, whether that's solo work or a personal habit. I'll leave this as a personal habit. And then here you have your scheduling rules that I mentioned. So for example, a duration setting for lunch might be, I want at least 30 minutes to eat lunch and have that break. And maximum, if I have the time, I'd love to have an hour for lunch if that time is available. Christy asked, can I customize my emojis for habits? Yes, you can select any emoji you want. You can also not have an emoji. This is how your event will show on the calendar to you, and depending on your privacy settings, to others viewing your calendar as well. So setting the duration, this one's already, again, auto pre-filled for 30 minutes to an hour. You can customize this to be whatever you want it to be. And then you have your hours. So what availability do you want your lunch habit, in this case, to schedule? I will set it for my working hours because, Monday through Friday, I would like to have lunch. I don't need to schedule lunch for the weekends. And that will set to the hours that I've set for my working hours, which we'll go through in a bit as well. Another setting that you can set is your frequency. So whether that's every day, weekly, biweekly, monthly, or quarterly. Some of those habits, especially those longer term ones, again, are easy to forget about once they come around every quarter. So this is a great way to get it on the calendar in advance. In this case, we're going to schedule it for every day, Monday through Friday, for my working hours. Here you can set your ideal time. So ideally, I'd love to have lunch at noon. But again, that flexibility allows Reclaim to sort of adjust it if noon, for example, isn't available due to a meeting or another conflict. You can also set your habit to start scheduling in advance after a certain date. But in this case, I'll just leave it for as soon as possible so Reclaim can start finding time for my lunch as soon as possible. Notes, you can add additional details to your habit events that will show in the actual event block on your calendar. This is a great place to add agendas or to-do lists or other docs that you might need to reference for completing a certain habit. In the case of lunch, that's not very necessary, but say if you had a report that you needed updated, you could link that right here so you don't have to go searching through your files to find it when the habit comes around. And then you have your visibility settings. So this is how you want others to have that availability to view your calendar and how this event will show when they do look at your calendar. In this case, I'll leave it as visible. I want my team to have that transparency to know when I'm busy with lunch so that I have that time to reset and hopefully reduce interruptions in that time. But you could also set it to just be busy, where that event will mark as busy to others viewing your calendar without that additional information. Your time defense settings allow you to give a little bit more granular control to how aggressively Reclaim defends this habit on your calendar. More defensive is the default, where depending on how full your calendar gets or how much time is left before the habit is supposed to start, Reclaim will automatically lock that event down. You could also, on this scale, mark it as always busy, which means Reclaim will automatically lock that time down so that it's always defended from being overbooked. Or alternatively, mark it as always free on the other end of that spectrum so that other things can always get booked over your lunch habit if something more important comes up. So if you have availability that day, Reclaim will schedule the habit, but if something more important comes up, Reclaim will prioritize that. So I'm gonna leave it as more defensive. You can send notifications for your habit events. This is based on your notification settings in Google Calendar. And then you have your advanced options where you can CC others for your habit if it's a collaborative event. And we have this other neat feature here where you can avoid duplicate events, which is great for something like lunch, where Reclaim will scan your calendar for other events that might include certain keywords, and then forego that event if that is scheduled for that day. So say you have a lunch meeting with investors that day, Reclaim won't also book you another lunch habit since you already have an event for lunch defended on the calendar. For your most important habits that you don't want to be interrupted during, you can also auto decline interruptions, which will mark you as a busy event in a Google Calendar where automatically users can't book time with you during that habit. And then I'm going to hit save, and Reclaim is automatically going to start finding time around my availability in my calendar to schedule this lunch habit around my preferences. And here we go. We already have it scheduled on the calendar with all of my upcoming events in this habit details view. If we go back to the planner, you should see lunch starting to schedule on the calendar around everything else that we have going on. Refresh here. Here we go. So starting next week, we have lunch scheduled for Monday and Tuesday. On Wednesday, for example, we have a team lunch event. So Reclaim is not going to schedule a lunch habit here automatically. And we have the rest of the week defended for a lunch break. One thing you'll notice when you're looking at the planner is that some events have a solid color block, and then other ones have this dashed outline. And this really fabulously illustrates the free busy controls that Reclaim uses to keep your calendar flexible while also defending time for your priorities. And like I said, Reclaim automatically locks down time for your events as your calendar books up or as time draws nearer for that event to start. And so in this case, for example, next Monday, my lunch habit is marked with a dashed outline, which means that Reclaim is reserving that space for my lunch break around my preferences, but there's still room for it to reschedule if something else comes up during that time. As opposed to, say, a solid block, which is locked down already for that time. Of course, you can always go manually lock events, which will automatically secure that time and mark it as your new preference for that time for that specific instance of the event. So that's a look at habits. And as you build out all of your habits, you also have this additional control to tell Reclaim how you want to prioritize your habits. You have this line here where you can tell Reclaim whether you want to prioritize habits ahead or after tasks, and you can just drag and drop to adjust that priority. Again, Reclaim builds out your perfect plan around the priorities that you give it every week, but you're still in total control of your calendar. So say, lunch is scheduled today for 2:15, but if I wanted to cancel it because I didn't have time for lunch break today, or I knew that I was getting an early dinner or whatever that might be, you can also right-click it in the planner to hit reschedule, or in this case, skip this instance altogether because I don't need a lunch break, and Reclaim will automatically clear that event from the calendar and adjust it around all your other priorities. So this sort of gives an overview of habits, but also how Reclaim starts to schedule and prioritize the events on your calendar. If we take a look at tasks, another awesome feature, it's a little bit different than habits in the sense of those recurring routines that you want to make time for. Tasks allow you to defend time on the calendar to sit down for independent sort of focused work on your to-do list. And this is a big part of productivity in the sense of bridging that gap between your to-do list and your calendar. It's one thing to have a big long list of all the things that you need to do every week, and another to actually find and defend the time on your calendar to work on it to get it done before it's due. And Reclaim makes this super simple, again, by allowing you to create new tasks with these similar rules around how you want it to schedule. So your task list lives in this tab here where you have, an overview of everything that's coming up, when it's scheduled, how much time is left, and when it's due. But creating a new task is very simple. You can click the new task button at the top of the app here, or hit C from anywhere in the app, and Reclaim will pull up this sort of mini form that should look similar from the habits form. Again, you can set an emoji, give the task a title. This is how it will show on your calendar. So let's say I have a very important report to finish. I'm going to set the duration for how long I need, say, an hour, 30 minutes. It could be whatever you want it to be. For those longer tasks, you can choose to split up events into smaller time blocks. Obviously, it's hard to find, say, a 5-hour block to sit down and work on something, and that might be way too much time to, productively focus on something. But for something smaller like this, let's just leave it as an hour and 30 minutes or I'll set it to an hour to make it simple. Again, you can select your hours, so the time that you want to schedule it for. You could set this to your working hours, for your personal tasks, your personal hours. And I'm going to set this to deep focus work, which is a custom hour setting that I will walk through it when we go over hours as well. Again, you can set your task to start scheduling after a certain time. So let's say I don't need to start working on this until next Tuesday, and then for a due date, I'll make it Wednesday the 27th. And then I'm going to hit create, and Reclaim is going to find time for me to work on this task before it's due. You can see again when it's scheduled, the time that is left, so the time that I said I needed for it, and when it's due. You'll also notice up here that tasks are scheduled into 4 different filters. So you have your open tasks, which is any task that you haven't explicitly marked as complete. You can mark a task as complete by clicking this check mark, or from the planner by right-clicking a task event and marking it as complete. So in this case, you could mark it as complete there. And if we go back to tasks, you can also drag and drop to prioritize your tasks, your task lists, which is great, especially once you have a very long task list with lots of different to-dos. If you reshuffle it too much and you make a big mess of it, you can also reprioritize everything by due date, and Reclaim will automatically readjust that list to keep you on track before any deadlines come up. For the other filters up here, you have your scheduled tasks, which is any task event that has time currently scheduled on the calendar for you to work on it. And again, you can see how much time you have left and when that due date is. Your done scheduling tasks, which can also still be open tasks, are the tasks that have run down through the time you said you needed for it, but you haven't marked whether you've completed it or not. And there's some automation that we'll go over in your default task settings in a bit. But this is a really great way to make sure that nothing falls through the cracks of the busy day. Obviously, you can have a task event scheduled on the calendar, but something else comes up where you're super focused on a different task, and that time passes through without you actually working on it. This done scheduling state makes it really easy to go back and put something back on the calendar with more time to work on it, or mark it as done if you did complete it, to make sure that nothing gets missed. And then your marked done tasks are sort of the full list of tasks that you've marked done, which is a great way to see, what you've completed, and also add more time for an event that maybe you have to do some reviews on or need more time to complete on the calendar. And Reclaim will automatically find time for it back on the calendar by opening it back up. Obviously, creating manual tasks, this is a really easy and quick way to get time to spend on the calendar for focused work, but you can also integrate Reclaim with your task management tools that you're already using, like Linear, ClickUp, Todoist, Asana, and Jira, so that you can automatically sync tasks that are assigned to you on those platforms to the calendar as a smart task without manually having to go in and create it. Reclaim has integrations with multiple project management apps that makes this really easy, which you can manage from your settings and integrations, which makes it really easy to set up. Each integration works a little bit differently, so we recommend taking a look at the Help Center to go over task integrations if you do use one of these platforms to get set up and start using it most effectively. And that's an intro to tasks. Let's see if we have any questions here. All right. Now, I've sort of showcased everything in the planner view of Reclaim, but Reclaim is also a bi-directional tool that works with Google Calendar. So anything that you update in Reclaim automatically updates to your Google Calendar as well. If we take a look at my Google Calendar here, we'll see that lunch is already starting to have scheduled, and any updates that I've made in Reclaim have also updated in Google Calendar. So if you wanted to use Google Calendar as sort of your calendar view, you can totally do that. Reclaim actually has a free integration add-on for the Google Workspace that's available in the marketplace, which is linked in the description as well, which is really quick to install. And when you have it installed, you'll see Reclaim in this little sidebar here, where you have a very similar view to the planner sidebar, where you have an overview of your tasks and your priority and low priority habits. A great thing here too is that if you have something that you want to work on, again, taking control of your calendar, even if something different is scheduled, you can start habits and tasks that are not currently scheduled. and Reclaim will automatically move it to the current time, as well as stop events that are actively scheduled to do something else, which is a great way to keep track of your capacity and the actual work that you focus on every day if those plans change from your time block plan that Reclaim creates for you. Now in the Reclaim planner, I mentioned that sort of dashed outline and the solid time block. In Google Calendar, obviously that isn't a possible look. So you'll notice that in Google Calendar, your events will be marked with an additional emoji, marking it either as free, meaning that it's sort of defended on the calendar but not locked down, and then a shield emoji, which shows that busy, lockdown, and secured time for your events. Now, I've talked about sort of the independent features that allow you to make time for your personal priorities, but Reclaim also has powerful collaborative features. Smart one-on-ones are the first meeting feature that Reclaim released, which allow you to automatically find time for those recurring one-on-one meetings that you have with your team. Which can be with Reclaim users or non-Reclaim users. And it automatically schedules your one-on-ones, whether they're weekly or monthly, across both people's busy calendars. So again, optimizing the process of scheduling meetings so that you can avoid the back and forth emailing and focus on actually making your meeting productive. And Reclaim will automatically find the best time for both people so that you can, quickly join the meeting and focus on that, as opposed to struggle, finding time across both people's calendars to connect. Again, similar to the view that we've already seen with habits and tasks, you give Reclaim these rules and preferences for when you want these events to schedule, these meetings to schedule. Like I said, Reclaim's smart one-on-ones don't have to be with Reclaim users. You send a one-time invitation that the other user accepts and sets their preferences for time. And then Reclaim gets to work on scheduling it on both people's calendars. You can, again, add links to agendas or docs. For scheduling rules, you can add the frequency, the duration, the hours for both users. So when you want to be available for this meeting to schedule, your ideal day and time. Again, very similar to those events that we've already walked through. You can also add a video conferencing link that will automatically be added to the event through Reclaim's Meet and Zoom integration, or add a physical video conferencing link or a meeting location if it is an in-person meeting. Reclaim will also detect any smart one-on-ones that you have on your calendar that aren't smart one-on-ones, so that you can really quickly convert them into smart one-on-ones and optimize that scheduling moving forward, which makes it super simple. Or you can create a brand new one, obviously, from this little button up here. Now, the other meeting feature is scheduling links, which allow you to share booking pages and meeting links for other people to find a time with you. Reclaim has these 3 default meetings that you can set up, but you can create new links for anything that you wanted to share a link for. You can create link groups for example, different side hustles or corporate identities that you can share sort of booking pages with multiple options to. But if we take a look at the booking page that you might share, it allows others to find a time to meet with you around your availability. And Reclaim has a couple of features for scheduling links that are very unique to it. One is being able to add multiple meeting durations to a single meeting link. So instead of having to choose how long someone needs with you, you can add up to 3 different durations that the attendee can actually choose from, depending on when they want to meet with you and how long they need. Obviously, longer meetings are rarer to find on a busy calendar, but if they're able to compromise to get on your calendar sooner, they have the option to do so without having to reach out and, again, have that manual back and forth. You can also share one-off links where you have, a framework of one of your scheduling links, but you wanted to say update the student scheduling time or the title. These links expire after 30 days, so they're great for those one-off instances. You can also embed all of your scheduling links in emails, or say on a website, if you wanted to include a booking link on your website for people to automatically find a time to meet with you for a consultation or something like that, which is great for those use cases, as well as quick shares to social media. With the add-on that I mentioned earlier, you can also view all of your scheduling links from within Google Calendar for that quick share, as well as use them in Gmail, automatically updating that add-on to Gmail as well. We'll add this icon to the bottom here so that you can instantly add your scheduling links to your email for a quick send. which makes it really easy to find time around your availability for both people to meet. Another feature that's very powerful with scheduling links that allows you to offer up your maximum availability for those really important meetings is a high priority meeting link. And high priority meeting links offer up the maximum availability for that meeting event by showing all of your smart one-on-ones, your tasks and habits as available times. And if a meeting gets booked over those, Reclaim, again, will automatically adjust your calendar to accommodate, which is a great way to make sure that you have that time available for those really important meetings that you want to make sure get on the calendar that you're happy to accommodate without, again, having to go in manually and delete events before sending out a link to an important customer or investor. In that sort of use case by just automatically giving them maximum availability and letting Reclaim handle all of the scheduling. So those are sort of the main features here. Stats are another great beta feature that we just released where you have an insight to your productivity trends around how much time you spend in meetings, how much time you spend in habits and tasks, your focus time, what days are most productive for you, how much time you spend in meetings, and who you've met with. These are great for sort of your personal stats. If you have your team built out in Reclaim, you also have your team stats available, which allow you to view sort of productivity trends and work-life balance trends without being invasive of people's privacy. So these are averaged across all team members. So you can identify trends, areas for improvement without being invasive in terms of privacy for your individual employees. So that's a great feature as well. Calendar sync is something that I want to touch on quick, which allows you to, if you have multiple calendars, schedule your availability more accurately by syncing and copying events from different calendars to your primary calendar. Obviously, you can have 14 different calendars, but you still only have 24 hours in the day, and making sure that you don't get overbooked across schedules. Calendar sync is a great way to make sure that you're using your time effectively across lots of different calendars. In that same sense, we also have a connected calendars feature, which instead of copying events to a primary calendar, allows Reclaim to check your availability across different calendars and avoid scheduling smart one-on-ones, tasks, and habits when you are busy across different calendars while keeping your primary calendar open to that collaboration. I want to quickly walk through settings, which I've mentioned a couple times here. In your general settings, you have a few default settings that you can set for all of these smart events. You can auto lock smart one-on-ones and tasks and habits events in advance, either at the start of the day or the start of the week. Like I mentioned, Reclaim automatically will secure time for those smart events around your availability as your calendar books up, but you can also take a little bit more control to have that locked down ahead of time to avoiding last minute rescheduling. Start time intervals for when you want to be available for those meetings to schedule, which again, just gives you a little bit more control over your calendar. Your default task settings allow you to have a little bit more optimization around how quickly you can create tasks. So if you don't fill out, say, the task duration, the hours, and the event duration for a task, Reclaim will pull from these default task settings to create a task event. So you can quickly just go in, put in a title and hit create, and Reclaim will sort of autofill this for those quick to-dos that you want to make sure get on the calendar, but don't need to spend too much time, specifying details for, which you can always update later as well. And then we have buffer time and breaks, which is another really important feature. Since obviously productivity and having all of these events scheduled on your calendar is great, but nobody can work back-to-back meetings every day or work full days with back-to-back productivity events. Buffer time and breaks allow you to also automatically schedule breaks and time to decompress after video conferencing meetings or all meetings with decompression time, which you can set, and Reclaim will automatically find time for those breaks as well, which is a very helpful way to boost your productivity in a little bit more of a work-life balance sense, including having a sort of default status that will update others viewing your calendar or your Slack status, say that you're taking a break after meetings, whether that's all your meetings or your video conferencing meetings. Now, we've touched on hours throughout where we've picked hours for when we want events to schedule. You can customize these in your hours settings, under settings, where you can build out your availability for when certain events schedule. You can add multiple time ranges to a single day, set certain days to be free of certain events. And then we also have custom hours where you can build out additional hour ranges for specific events like deep focus work or different clients or corporate identities, which allow you to have a little bit more control over specific events and when they schedule. Colors are another neat feature. And I know we're running on time here, but I want to sum it up real quick. Obviously, this seems like a little bit of a superficial feature, but it's really nice to be able to customize your calendar so that it is a tool that you enjoy using. Obviously, time block calendars work best when you're using them every day, and creating a calendar that you like the look of or that feels inspiring to you is a great way to make sure that you are consistent with your time blocking habits. So you can set this according to the Google Calendar colors for certain events and what color they automatically categorize as. And you can do this for only Reclaim created events or all events in your calendar, where Reclaim will intelligently categorize those events into the color groupings that you've set. And we've already walked through integrations here. We're running on time here, so I do want to wrap it up. If you have questions getting set up or you run into any issues, you can always contact support. Our team is always available if you run into bugs or any issues getting set up. Obviously, getting started with a tool like this can be overwhelming. Hopefully this webinar was helpful in giving an overview of what some of the things that you can do with Reclaim, some of the features. I have quick links in the description, which will go out in the follow-up email as well. But we have a YouTube channel with lots of videos on getting started and tips and tricks for you to get the most out of Reclaim. Our help center has lots of information on all our features, task integrations, and how to get set up for success with Reclaim. As for our plans, our pricing and plans page breaks down all of the features available across our plans so that you can make your best decision for the features that you need. In your account settings, if you do already have it set up, we also have the setup guide, which is a great way to go through some of the steps that I've talked through here. So that you can onboard to get the most out of all of the features and learn things that might, slip through the cracks if you didn't know that they were there. So this is a great way to set up all of your features and learn about how they work and how you can get the most success out of the feature, which is available up here in the setup guide. And then, of course, you have your billing and teams page where you can also change your plan, update billing details, and build out your Reclaim team so that you can get more collaboration and productivity across everyone in your organization. Let me see if we have any other questions that I might have missed here. All right. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I hope this webinar was helpful. We have other webinars coming up every week. If you wanted to check back on the webinars and demos page on the website to register for another one, this one will be live on YouTube for an on-demand review as well. But thank you so much for joining. I hope this was helpful, and we will see you next time. Thanks.